Welcome to another episode of Soap Thing Thoughts. Today I'm doing this one solo, alone, by myself. But that's okay because I've got questions from the viewers. A while ago I put out a request on my YouTube channel for questions from my viewers, and a handful of you came through, so I'm going to take these questions and read them. And there's also some other questions in here that came from random videos here and there that I thought would be interesting. So let's take this list and let's start reading them. Solo Mission said in the comment section of video number 200, he said, I remember you saying you did not enjoy the Game Changer 68 because of the blade feel. Doesn't the Lupo 58 have more blade exposure? Yet you seem to enjoy the Lupo a lot. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here. Let me think. I want you to take two different razors that you own and hold them side by side and just look at them. One of the things you'll notice is that even if it has the same blade gap and blade exposure, these two razors, what's going to be wildly different is the cap and guard geometry, the angle at which the blade is being introduced to your face relative to the angle and shape of the base plate and the cap. The reason so many razor makers talk about blade gap and blade exposure is because those are two things that can be measured. They're quantifiable. Cap and guard geometry, on the other hand, is not. The only way to know if that particular head on the razor works for you is to shave with it. I would actually argue that blade gap and blade exposure really doesn't matter that much unless you're dealing with a razor that's very blade forward or has a very large blade gap or both. I'm talking about razors like the Merkur Future or the Blackland Blackbird. So I guess the reason why I like the Lupo more than the Game Changer, even though the Lupo has more blade feel, is because the way the blade is presented to my face relative to the shape of the base plate works better for me on the Lupo than it does on the Game Changer. I hope that answers that question. Moving on to the paper, Fat Squatch PNW said in the comment section of video number 233, I don't want to call you a brush snob because that sounds negative, but you definitely display discerning taste when it comes to brush makers and brands. If you were to recommend, say, a top 3 higher end brush makers, who would you pick? Alright, first off, let's talk about my brush snobbiness. So the reason that you don't tend to see me very often anyway with very inexpensive equipment, I'm talking about brushes, razors, things like that, is because I will tend to either give them away or sell them away to new wet shavers who are local to me who are curious about wet shaving. If somebody were to come to me and go, hey, I've watched your videos, I want to learn how to wet shave, I'm sick of these cartridge razors, one of the things I'm not going to do is hand them a Wolf Whiskers brush. No, I'm going to give them my Razor Rock Bruce because it's only $18 to $20. I'm not going to give them my expensive stuff because they more than likely don't know how to use it yet. So whenever I have people come to me who are curious about wet shaving, all my cheapest stuff is going to be the first things to go. So from reading this a second time, I'm gathering that you're less concerned about customizability and you more or less just want a nice brush. That's what I think I'm reading from this, and if that's what you're going for, I've got 3 brands in mind for you. One of them is ShaveMac. Now, ShaveMac has this custom brush configurator where you can make brushes in all different sizes, all different shapes and colors and different knots. They have a lot of different badger knots. They have a couple of synthetic knots. ShaveMac really does make high quality brushes and they're very, very consistent. In fact, here's a ShaveMac right here. These are made in Germany, by the way. This is my 22mm ShaveMac 2-band badger. This is a pearl white brush that I've been using a lot lately. I really love using this one. Moving on to QED USA, they make the QED Select brushes. Here's the thing about these. They're a little scritchy, if I'm being honest. They're not the softest thing in the world, but because they're just a little on the scritchy side, that's very good for exfoliating my skin and kind of breaking loose hairs and things like that while I'm applying the lather to my face. These and the Shave Mac brushes don't tend to throw hairs. The knots are really well built and they last forever. They take a beating. Like, I've used these brushes a lot and they look and function just fine. So definitely check out Shave Mac or QED USA. The last one I have for you is AP Shave Co. They occasionally will drop some brushes in their handcrafted collection. And these are presumably hand-turned in Germany. Some of them are turned in the UK, some of them are turned in the US, it really depends. But what I like about AP Shave Co. is their variety of their knots. AP Shave Co. has all sorts of knots, especially if you like synthetic brushes. AP Shave Co. is for you. They've got synthetics that are imitation horsehair, imitation boar, they've got Boss synthetics, they've got the G5 series. This one just happens to be a G5C from Japan. And I really like using this brush occasionally. The shape of it kind of reminds me of the Stanley Cup. If I'm being honest, as a hockey fan, I really love the shape of this brush. And it also fits really well in the hand. So definitely also check out AP Shave Co. whenever they have a drop of their handcrafted series brushes. If you want a high quality brush, and like I said, you're less concerned about customizability, those are 3 brands you ought to check out. Now, when it comes to artisan brush makers, there's too much of a variety with too many levels of skill for me to make a recommendation. So I'm going to ask you to go to their Etsy page or go to their Instagram, find an artisan that you think you might be interested in, and just look at their previous work. Check them out for yourself and decide for yourself if it's something that you want. Like I said, there's too much of a variety out there for me to make a recommendation, but if you just want a high quality brush, these 3 brands are your answer. From Mark Denton, he says, dive further into how you say us artisans are half-assing it. All right, buddy boy, have it your way. So for those of you who don't know what he's talking about, in recent months I have done a few videos where I openly criticize artisans just broadly because I think too many products in their product portfolio are scent dupes. They're scents that are heavily inspired by some kind of designer or niche fragrance, like Creed Aventus or Dior Sauvage or Aqua de Jo, things like that. They'll take a very popular, very well-known fragrance and put the scent into a shaving soap and an aftershave and try to make it smell as close to that scent as possible, and then they put it on the market and sell it as a scent dupe or an inspired scent. Now I know, it's not enough just to bitch about it, alright, I have to offer a solution, don't I? So here's what I think artisans should be doing. I think scent dupes or inspired scents should make up less than 50% of your product lineup. And this is why. When you dupe a scent, when you make an inspired scent, you are standing on the shoulders of other people who came before you, who put more work into it than you did, and spent a lot more money on research and development than you did. If you're going to call yourself an artisan, I thought artisans were supposed to be better. They were supposed to be making higher quality soap with higher quality ingredients that were better for your face, and scents that were made by you. When I buy something from your artisan business, I want to buy something more often than not that is coming from you. It's something that you want me to experience, not something that you're just throwing out there onto the market because you know everybody already likes it and it's going to sell. There's been a few artisans that have really caused problems for themselves over this because they're so busy cranking out scent dupe after scent dupe after scent dupe that they don't vet their products. They make it out onto the market somehow and they don't even have any scent. I've had that happen to me more than a few times where I'll get an artisan product that's a scent dupe in my shave den, and right out of the box, it doesn't have any scent and it never has any scent because they didn't check, they didn't be patient and wait to see if the scent was even going to work with their soap base. So one thing I think artisans need to understand, and I'm not saying that you should never do scent dupes, but you have to understand that when you do that, you are shortcutting products out onto the market at probably a faster rate than they should be. I've heard plenty of arguments in favor of inspired scents, but the most common one is people simply say, well, it's easier to get products out onto the market faster, and that's what people want. That's what sells. Okay, great. You know what else sold really well and got shortcutted out into the market? Vioxx. Because I love taking a pill for my back pain and then having a heart attack. Oh, Jesus. Now, I'm not saying that soap makers should never do scent dupes or inspired scents. They're a critical part of your income. You need those crowd-pleasing scents and people like them. I get it. But I also expect from artisans some originality. If you're supposed to be so much better than corporate commercial soap makers, then I expect you to act like it more than 50% of the time. Double A Shaves asks, what is your favorite artisan and why? Murphy and McNeil. And I've talked about this in a recent video. I'll put the video in the description of this one, where I talk in great detail about exactly why I like Murphy and McNeil so much, but I'll go ahead and summarize. So Murphy and McNeil's products have a certain elegant simplicity to them that very few other artisans have. Every label has a meaning to it. There's a message they're trying to send to you with the scent combined with the label, and it really is trying to tell you something in the simplest way possible, and I really appreciate that about Murphy and McNeil. These are their samples, so they're in these little resealable bags, versus, where do I have a sample at? Most other samples look like this. They just come in a little 1/4 ounce tiny jar, and I think the fact that Murphy and McNeil goes the extra mile to give you better packaging, that really is worth something. Packaging matters. I really like the scents that they put out. They are kind of following the formula that I mentioned earlier, where about half of their products are original scents, and they're very good originals that had a lot of thought put behind them. And of these scents that they do dupe, their inspired scents, they're very careful about what scents they dupe, and the end result is always very good. Their Tom Ford Tobacco Vanille dupe is amazing. Their Tom Ford Oud Wood dupe is excellent. Their scents are fantastic. You got to try some of these if you haven't tried their scents. It's really good stuff. I like the fact that Murphy and McNeil has free shipping. That matters. So if I want to buy just one puck of soap, or if I want to buy just one of these, I can do that, and I'm not on the hook for shipping costs. Now, conversely, I actually do recommend, if you see a lot of things you like, try to buy them all at once. Try to make the shipping worth their time. But if all you really want is just one aftershave, one soap, or one other product that they have in their portfolio, you can buy just that one product and you get free shipping. I like the fact that Murphy & McNeil sells more than just their own products. They sell a variety of other artisans on their website. Now, they don't have as much as some other retailers, but they've got a good variety of soaps from other artisans. And so they're not just trying to sell their own stuff. They're also a retailer, and those products have free shipping too. They all have free shipping. I like the fact that Murphy & McNeil has a used marketplace. It's basically all the benefits of a BST, but without all the hassle, because you can advertise the stuff that you want to sell on their website, and they take a small consignment fee, or you can just send them a box of stuff, and they will go through it and pay you a flat rate and sell it themselves. So that's a great system that they offer that I think they caught on to right at the right time. I think it's doing very well for them. And then I guess the last reason, there's lots of reasons, but I'm going to stop right here. Murphy & McNeil has great customizability with their aftershaves. You can get their aftershave splashes with or without alcohol and with or without menthol. So whatever your skin wants, they've got you covered. This next question is from Better Every Shave. He says, given how much has changed in the world of wet shaving products in the past few years, where do you see the market going? You've already mentioned a general dissatisfaction with weak and lazy releases by artisans and a lack of creativity and innovation in the space. Are there too many artisans asking too much to be sustainable, or will there always be enough whales willing to buy every new thing? Oh boy. So I have made this argument a few times, and I've heard a lot of people, maybe they're not addressing me directly, but the common counter argument I get to this is that people think there can never be too much competition in the wet shaving market. More is always better. I can tell you right now that that is not true. Go back and look at the automotive industry in the late 1940s, right after World War II. You had car companies like Packard, Studebaker, Nash, Kaiser Jeep, DeSoto, Plymouth, all these different car companies are now extinct. They went away because at a certain point there were too many car companies making too many cars. All right, come on, people, this is not difficult. The reason so many of these artisans, these soap makers, these brush makers, these razor makers, the reason there's so many of them going out of business is because people are not buying their products. I don't care what an artisan or a brush maker or a razor maker says when they decide to go out of business. I don't care what they say their rationale is. The reality of the situation is that they were not making money. If you were making buku bucks off of this razor business or this brush business, this soap business, there is no way you would walk away from that. You would figure out how to make that gravy train keep rolling. Okay? The simple fact of the matter is, we have all these artisans leaving the space because people are choosing not to buy their products. There are more artisans entering this hobby than there are hobbyists entering the hobby. And that is why you have so many of these artisans folding up shop and going away. This next one is from Carlito Shaves. He says, with everything that you know now, and if you lost 95% of your shaving items in a fire, how would you start over? What would you do differently? You're probably not going to like the answer. To be honest with you, if I lost 95% of my shaving items in a fire, I probably would be like, that's a relief. Not that I need an excuse to just walk away from this hobby, but if an excuse like that presented itself, you bet your ass I'd take it. I would pretty much be like, bye now.
Hasta la vista, baby.
I seriously would take the 5% I have left and go shave at the gym while the insurance company is building me a new house. I'd be like, peace out, I'm out. JMW says, what are your favorite brushes these days and why? How do you treat your skin after a rough shave and when irritation and ingrown hairs set in? So I'm going to answer the second part of that question first. It depends on what you mean by irritation. When it comes to ingrown hairs, I will tend to just ignore those. Apply a hot washcloth to it occasionally. But for the most part, I'm just going to have this bump that stays there for 2.5, 3, sometimes even 4 weeks before it fully goes away. I generally only get 1 or 2 ingrown hairs at a time. And if I take a hot washcloth to it pretty regularly, it gets to where the razor will just glance over it. It won't even cut it open. So good news for me on that one. As far as nicks and cuts, lately I've been taking care of those the old-fashioned way, just with toilet paper bits all over my face. That's about it. I don't even use an alum block anymore. Now, if I get razor burn, what I do with that is actually going to make some people laugh. I swear by this stuff. If you got razor burn or really irritated skin, it's going to be AFTA. This stuff works wonders for my skin if I had a really rough shave. It even says right on the bottle, soothes irritated skin, and it does. It is dirt cheap pharmacy aftershave balm, but hey, it works. Now when it comes to brushes, up until the last year, I had a really strong penchant for the artistic side of brush making. I was just collecting every artisan brush that I thought was interesting. Lately, I've been more about where the rubber meets the road when it comes to brushes. And so the brushes I've been using a lot of are the Shave Mac and the QED USA brushes for the reasons I mentioned earlier in the video. From Brian Erskine, have you ever tried the Rockwell razor, the Rockwell Barbershop shaving soap, and the Rockwell blades? Not all at the same time, I haven't. I do love the Rockwell razor. It's one of my all-time favorite razors. Here is the Rockwell 2C with the number 2 and number 4 plate on it. I have actually owned 4 Rockwell 6S razors because every time I buy a 6S, somebody local to me who's new to wet shaving does their research, decides they want to try the Rockwell 6S, and what do you know, I just happen to have one. So I have bought it 4 times and sold it 4 times. Finally, I decided I'm just going to get the cheaper version of it because this is getting ridiculous. Greg Tardif asks, do you have specific ingredients you look for in a shaving soap before you blind buy? Specific ingredients before I blind buy? No, not really. In fact, I think that the overwhelming majority of artisan soap makers have a lot of overlapping ingredients in them. Like I got a shaving soap right here. Practically every soap maker has stearic acid, sodium hydroxide, glycerin, shea butter. Like, they have all the same stuff in their soaps. I think what matters more is how the soap is made and how you use it. Obviously, there's exceptions to the rule. There are some soap makers that have insanely high quality skin foodie ingredients in them, and that's going to make a difference. But in 95% of the cases, it's going to come down to more about how you use it and how the soap is made than what's actually in it. Here's another one from Mark Denton. Hey there, Mark. This one is from video 230. He says, when can we expect the Soap Thing to start cranking out his own products? Oh, I just might. If I get pissed off enough, I just might. Okay, last one, and it is from Lather Addict. He says, when personalities transcend the product, is that a good thing for the community? So what he's talking about is there are some YouTubers or Facebook group members who 90% of their content is the same single artisan, and they always suspiciously seem to love every single thing they touch from that artisan. Now, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of people out there who simply are just very easily impressed and would have a hard time finding products that they do not like, okay? Let's not pretend those people don't exist, because they do. But there's also quite a lot of people who are just being a shill, okay? They seem to senselessly defend the most indefensible behavior from one certain artisan, and it seems like they will defend them to the gates of hell and back. That's actually a big reason why I left Facebook, because it got to where there were so many of these people where I can't tell, are these actual customers or are these just groupies for Motley Crue circa 1984? You know, oh my God, it's Peter Charcalis. Nikki Sixx. This is just high school behavior, if I'm being real, alright? These are just people who want to feel like they're part of the cool kids, so that's just how they behave. But reverence of the cult of personality is never a good thing. Another similar problem I'm seeing is with YouTubers who have built up a reputation and they then turn around and destroy their credibility just for the sake of being a spokesperson for a certain retailer of wet shaving products. The sad thing about that is, I don't think these people realize it's going to blow up in their face eventually. It's just a question of when. I mean, seriously, what do you think these retailers are going to do to you when they don't need you anymore? They are going to drop you like a literal bad habit so fast it'll make your head spin. And in both of the situations I just mentioned, it puts you in a tough position where a lot of people who used to trust you, now they don't know if they can depend on anything you say. There is a reason why you do not touch the hand of Midas. You might turn into gold, but it's going to kill you in the process. Well, ladies and germs, that's about the size of it. That's all I have for you today. Questions, comments, put them in the comment section of the video, or if you got offended by what I said, you are invited to go pound sand. This is Soap Thing telling you, shave like you mean it. Thanks for watching.